Good evening, boxing fans, and welcome to another exciting edition of Enter the Ring Live for Sunday, March the 7th, 2021, with your hosts, Mighty Mike.
AJ Rage.
And Eric. Are you paying attention?
Eric the Red.
Oh, sorry. I was actually doing a little quick shout out to John Molina Sr. Hey, we just wanted to say hi and let them know that we're thinking of him. Sorry. Eric the Red is here as well. So sorry, guys.
We wanted to start off the show today by saying that, John Molina Sr. is going through some trying times right now in his life. And, he's in our prayers and thoughts, and along with his entire family, his wife, his son, of course, his grandchildren. So, Johnny, if you're out there, I think Johnny's working right now, but if you catch this, I stay in communication with him as well. So,
yeah, I do. I try not to bug him too much and stuff. I usually talk to him, but I'm afraid to open up what he sends me sometimes because it's kind of shocking. I can't really get into it.
Yeah, you got to be careful with
I learned the hard way one time in front of my wife.
So hold on. Both my brothers have had the opportunity to actually meet John Molina Sr., and I haven't. But you know what? Through Facebook, I've actually got to know him a little bit. What an amazing guy. I mean, and what an amazing father. Somebody who actually cares so deeply for his family. That's a very unappreciated nowadays. You know what I mean? Big shout out to you.
He's old school, big time. He's old school.
Yeah.
Father, man.
I was telling Mike at the break before we started that I got to spend a lot of time with John Sr. at the Johnny's last fight against Josecito Lopez. At the same time, I got to spend time with Johnny's original trainer, Larry, who recently passed away. Another amazing individual and stuff, who just cool guy. You know what I'm saying? Just knew you couldn't drop a name on him that he didn't have a backstory on. You know what I'm saying? But everything in a positive way. Both of them came off as very humble, honest, but father figures, mentor types. So our heart goes out, and we're gonna our prayers, and we know he's a fighter, probably a better fighter than his son. He taught his son, so we'll find out. They're both great fighters. If he's got anything like his son, he's not going to give up.
No, not at all. Yeah. So, anyways, it's been a while, guys. We missed last week with some issues and stuff, but we never really even got to do our post-fight recap of Canelo's fight. It was a week ago, right? Was it last week or a week before?
It was last week, bro.
It was last weekend. Last weekend. That's right, because that's right. It was last Saturday. I don't know. What did you guys take on it? Eric, I had to say, you guys, I think you called it, Eric. I think you called fourth round.
Yeah.
I called fourth round.
Yeah. And technically that would be considered a fourth round stoppage, right? A TKO, because it was stopped at the end of the third. So that technically is,
He got out of the third, and then it was in the corner between rounds. So it would technically be, I think, fourth, maybe. Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
So I called it fourth round.
What time is a fourth round? Officially is a fourth round TKO, stoppage by the corner.
Yeah, and it was a little strange because it looked like Joel Diaz was telling him, "Hey, I'm going to give you one more round. You got to show me something, this and that." And of course, he had the interpreter in there, and then
he quit.
And then the kid, he said something to his the interpreter, and then they just waved the fight off. It was very strange. And I said something that night to you guys both that it's no knock on Canelo. Canelo, it was his mandatory, whatever, but and then I think boxing that day took a little bit of a step back, because when you have a fight like a high profile fight like Canelo, and they're fighting in Texas and they've got fans in the stands. I mean, they had several thousand people there at the state. I'm sorry, not in Texas. It was in Miami.
In Florida.
It was at the Hard Rock Stadium where the Dolphins played. It was like a big event because Florida's been open and stuff. And, you got to show out. I don't care who the mandatory is. If it's mandatory and it's that big of an event. Now, granted, this was not the biggest boxing event we've ever witnessed, but for the times we're living in, it was a huge event. And it really, it really fell short. It fell flat, and it was no fault of Canelo. He did what he had to do. I think in hindsight, Canelo probably wishes he carried him for a few more rounds, because that was my prediction. I thought he was going to carry him for a few rounds and maybe fifth or sixth round, turn it on. But Canelo, what can you say, man? Doesn't matter who's in front of him. The man is he's going to do what he's going to do.
He's a beast.
He looks strong.
Well, he took him completely out of his element. The other guy,
just
literally, if he had a game plan at all, it was destroyed in round 1.
Those body shots.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point, Eric. That's a great point.
Yeah, if he had any kind of plan, it was done. He wasn't prepared for what Canelo brought him.
Okay, you guys ready for my in-depth review of this fight? Here we go. I think this fight was won before Canelo even stepped in the ring. I don't think that the guy was ready for this, even though this isn't what I would consider a huge magnitude as far as the size of the fight. Canelo's used to this now. He's been at this big stage several times. Every time he walks into the ring, it's this every time. This guy got a little taste in front of a very limited crowd, but kind of lived for a moment in Canelo's world. Canelo knew the guy was going to come at him strong. So Canelo did what he did against Gennady Golovkin. He came straight at him, started landing his big, strong punches, showed this guy just how strong he is. You could tell after the first round that the guy was feeling the punches, but the fact that this is a guy who was competitive, I felt was winning. Most ring majority felt he was winning. And no knock on the Durrells, but you got to admit, between Andre and Anthony, they always seem to find this way to just kind of like get out of a fight if it's not going their way. The fight was not going Anthony Durrell, the dog, if you guys don't know who it is.
Yeah.
By Benavidez. And this guy was handling Durrell. It was on his way to victory when Durrell got this little bullshit cut and bowed out and stuff because he was up on cards because it was in Michigan where he's from. End of the story. Durrell was struggling. Canelo walked to this guy like he was a late sub that came out of Costa Mesa. I mean, it was nothing. It was an easy night work for him. He probably had tougher guys in sparring.
Yeah, and those
he probably did.
Those body shots were brutal. He was landing those body shots, man. You can hear him. You can hear him and feel him through the screen. It was crazy.
We've been saying that though, bro. The Canelo's gotten stronger. I know everybody's going to go back and they're going to say with the PEDs. Listen, Canelo's not on nothing. Canelo's on one thing, and it's called determination. Determined to be the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. And he knows by doing what he's doing it right. It's a man who's at this stature.
He's well on his way.
Tell me one fighter who's ever been in the position Canelo is that is possibly going to fight 4 times in a year. You tell me one in history.
He might even fight 5 times this year.
I can't think of one. You're lucky if you can get 4 fights in 4 years from a guy like Mayweather.
The last one doesn't count.
And think about the frequency also.
Quite honestly.
Think about the frequency now. I mean, that the date is already set, I believe, for him against Billy Joe Saunders, right?
Yeah.
And I think they're saying it's going to be in Vegas, or they don't have a venue yet, or maybe they haven't locked down a venue. But that fight is set. They were announcing it right during the post-fight interview. The graphics came up on the screen. Now, I mean, AJ, we all have our opinion. You know what Billy Joe Saunders is going to show up. The best Billy Joe Saunders makes it competitive a little bit. Canelo still wins, but if Billy Joe Saunders shows up anything like he was in his last fight against Martin Murray, I think Canelo knocks him out in before the midway point of the fight. I think he abuses Billy Joe.
Yeah, I think the downfall on Billy Joe right now is you just don't really know how seriously Billy Joe's taking boxing at this point. All the downfalls seem to occur when he got on that bullshit YouTube event. When, you had all these clowns that aren't even fighters that were fighting, and Billy Joe was actually put, he was shadowing these guys. He was put like on the undercard. Here's a guy that's the current champion of the world,
Yeah, and who did he fight again on that night? That wasn't the fight. I don't even remember who he fought, but I remember. I don't remember. Was that his last fight, or was Martin Murray's last fight? I don't remember.
Martin Murray was his last fight. This is the fight.
So that was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, why he would allow himself to be relegated to that sideshow, I don't understand.
Maybe to kind of get himself exposed to some of these YouTubers or whatever, but I don't want to elaborate on
these
it.
These YouTubers aren't going to order these fights and pay for these fights. These YouTubers are only going to watch their.
They're still living in their mom and dad's basement. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
Get a job.
Yeah. But like you were saying, I mean, I think the issue that Billy Joe's going to run into is that Canelo's just too active. He's too sharp. Billy Joe hasn't been in the ring in a while. Once again, I'm going to say he's being very lackadaisical, which is kind of unusual because he even though he's good friends with Tyson Fury, he doesn't have that same mentality other than he likes to use his jaw. If I was Billy Joe's management and his trainer, I would tell Billy Joe, you know what? For this one, kind of keep it quiet, because if he upsets Canelo's going to make a quick example of him. I think Canelo did that with this mandatory because I think Canelo was a little insulted that he had to fight this mandatory. So he got it out of the way. So he said, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because I'm going to go have dinner down in South Beach and just brutalize the guy.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen to Billy Joe. Now I don't mean to stretch it. There's one other scenario. Is Billy Joe playing possum? Has Billy Joe been in the gym? Has Billy Joe intentionally made himself look vulnerable in these last couple fights in order to lure Canelo into this match, which didn't seem it was on Canelo's radar a few years ago? So we're gonna find out. But I honestly think
I think that's giving the guy too much credit, quite honestly.
Yeah.
I don't think he's smart enough to do that.
Well, I know a lot of people try to say because of the 168 that Billy Joe's naturally at 168, but he's not known as a power puncher. He's another guy like Khalid Plant who, you know, can't punch out of a paper bag. He's slick like Khalid Plant. Caleb Plant. But here's the issue he's going to run into. Billy Joe's got that. One thing he did inherit from Tyson Fury is if you engage him, he's going to fight back. Go back and watch his fight against was it David Lemieux, Mike?
Well, David Lemieux, he never even had to engage. He just put on a masterclass boxing performance against Lemieux.
Yeah, but I mean, the bottom line is that
that's why I said you don't know what Billy Joe's going to show, because Billy Joe does have some skill, and he can be slick. That was at 160 though. At 168, he's a little bit soft around the midsection, whereas Canelo carries out 168 pounds very well. You know, and the defense, very strong. His defense hasn't, normally you go up and wait gradually, your movement becomes a little bit less. That hasn't happened with Canelo. His movement is still the same, if not better now than it was when he was fighting at the lower weights. Yeah. 154, absolutely. 160.
He seemed very natural. Yeah. He seemed very natural at that weight. Just very, very fluid. So,
yeah. Well, he did something that was smart that a lot of boxers don't know. It's a tactic. When Canelo went up to fight against Kovalov, he forced himself to fight at a heavier weight. He forced himself to become more mobile at a heavier weight. So then when he naturally dropped down to 168, he was even faster and more fluent with his punches. It's a good tactic. It happens. And it was the same thing that happened with Chris Bird some years ago when he was a heavyweight. He moved down to cruiserweight. He wasn't successful, but you saw a difference in his style.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, it's a little bit too early. We're not going to make our predictions now. We're going to save that for a video as that fight goes.
Oh, come on. Let's do it.
Well, we got a lot to cover. We got a lot to cover today.
We know where you're going, Eric. We know what you think, so.
Yeah, I mean.
Canelo in 8 rounds.
8 rounds. He might call it. That might be
calling it now. Bet now, baby. Bet now. Canelo in 8.
Well, I think whatever round if Canelo stops him, especially if Canelo stops him within 5, it's going to put a statement out there, only because that's a second undefeated fighter and another champion that seemed untouchable. And that'll kind of lead into maybe, go ahead, Mike, bring this segment, because I want to talk about Caleb Plant later.
Okay. Well, I mean, we'll close out that. Like I said, we're going to reserve our fight predictions because that fight is actually still a couple months away. I think it's targeted for sometime in early May. I believe it's going to be May Cinco de Mayo weekend, whichever that falls on. I think it might fall on May 3rd, a couple of days early, or May the, I don't know, I heard the 3rd or the 4th. Either way, that'll probably be, maybe it'll be in Vegas. Maybe it will be in Texas. I'm probably guessing more like Texas. Like I heard Jerry Jones is making a play for that fight because,
probably going to be the 8th.
Maybe the 8th then. Okay.
The 8th.
Well, they lifted the COVID restriction. So, they're going to be able to put people in the seats. So.
And Jerry Jones already had the fight there at the stadium with Danny Garcia and Errol Spence. So, if they can even crowd in, make the capacity of 50, 60%, or even, it might even be 100%. Who knows? I mean,
well, no, Texas took away everything. We're open. Yeah. So
good for them.
You'll end up having a big draw.
Good for them.
We might have to go on a road trip, man. If it's a good,
let's go. I'm down.
Road trip out there. I'm itching, man.
I was just in Arlington back in November. I was there at that stadium, and it's a great place, man. You like Texas barbecue? They got some good food.
Hey, Michael, talk to your sister-in-law and see if she can finagle some tickets somehow.
No, she has nothing to do with
nah.
Okay.
That's NFL.
She's just NFL. All right.
Yeah. Shouldn't I do with that?
You never know. Maybe they know somebody with the box.
Those tickets wouldn't be hard to get. I mean,
no,
it wouldn't be hard to get. I mean, it's not going to sell out. But I mean,
well,
if it was the Canelo versus
you didn't think that Florida one was going to sell out, but it sold out. The Canelo fight sold out. I mean, they were completely at capacity. So who knows?
But they were still at a limited capacity though. It was not. That stadium holds 90,000 people, bro.
Yeah, how many did they have in there, Mike? What was it? What was it?
I want to say, I think it was like 25,000, 20 or 25,000.
That's still pretty good though.
Yeah, well, yeah, in a stadium that holds 100,000, but they had them spaced out, whatever. It made no sense because people were spaced out, but then nobody was required to wear masks. It was dumb. It was just, it's all dog and pony
Well,
show.
we're gonna have to make a stop at El Paso and go see Labrada and Juliana, our singer from our band, Reclaim the Sky. We're gonna have to, if we're gonna go that way.
Yeah,
how close is it?
They've got a really good. So I think in El Paso they make a salty beer. Amazing.
Oh, really?
I've had it before. We got to stop. Yeah, we'll buy a couple of cases and bring it back home.
Can they make a salty sweet beer?
All right, so let's jump into the. Since we're talking about the super middleweight division, let's briefly talk about AJ. You wanted to say something about? I guess there's been a lot of internet fodder, a lot of innuendos, rumors, internet jargon going back and forth between David Benavidez, Caleb Plant, even Edgar Berlanga. I haven't been privy to any of it, so this is all you. I don't know anything that's going on. I did read something where David Benavidez said, I think I just read it today, where he said Canelo knows not to fight me because I'll knock him out, and that's not a knock against Canelo. That's just David.
Who said that?
David Benavidez. David Benavidez.
I'm gonna have to stand behind him on that one.
David Benavidez is the guy that Canelo, I don't think they'll go anywhere near him. The risk is not worth the reward for that fight. Yeah. And I'm not saying Canelo is afraid, because Canelo's not afraid of anybody, but from a strategic standpoint, his business, how he wants to finish off his career these next couple of years, David Benavidez is the wrong guy for most guys to fight. Well, he's a beast. When he's on point and when he's committed in training, when he's fighting for something, he's a very dangerous fighter.
Well, the thing is about that's interesting about it is that if Canelo did, for some reason, take that bait and fight Benavidez, and if he was victorious, at that point, it's the yellow brick road for Canelo Alvarez in any division he wants to go to, because he's pretty much beating a guy that could probably beat half the cruiserweights. Right,
what else is there to prove after that?
What else is there to
prove?
As
far as I'm concerned, I think there's only one fighter at 168 that Canelo cannot beat, or it might be a toss-up, and that's Benavidez. Everybody else, I think he handles with ease.
Yeah, with ease. Well, getting back what we were talking about, Caleb Plant wanted to get in the mix because, he's one of those guys that if he's not getting the shine, he's got to find a way to get his name in the mix, because people are finally starting to notice that Canelo Alvarez is the elite in the class as far as what he's doing and being an active fighter. We know as boxing enthusiasts who the real number one is. He's not getting the glamour right now in Benavidez. So Plant's go ahead and do this. I really don't believe, unless Plant's looking for a really big payday, which there's going to be no negotiating against Canelo. He's going to be the B side, and he's going to get a fraction of what he thinks he's going to get. He's still going to be the best payday. He stands.
It'll still be a career high payday for him, but this will also probably be the end of his career. Yeah. I'm not saying he won't ever fight again after fighting Canelo, but Canelo will put a beating on him so bad that he'll never be the same.
Oh no, you're absolutely right. And the thing about Plant is maybe it's his days at the Mayweather gym and stuff like this, but he seemed lately he's put more work in his mouth than in his skills, or should I say the opponent choices that he makes. Because right now the opponents he's fighting, these guys are just one step out of the Avalon. But if that happens, honestly, he's slick. He might last a few rounds, but once Canelo lands on this guy, he's shown a vulnerability to have a little bit of a suspect chin. It's going to be a short night.
And he gasses midway through the fight. He tends to gas a bit. He just hasn't had anybody that's really Caleb
Plant.
He hasn't had anybody that can press him really. He's been able to control these guys, and most of it is because of his opponent choice, like you said. And this is not a knock against his opponents. They're trying to win the fight, but they're just not anywhere close to the elite level at that division. Mike Lee, the European guy, and then Caleb Truax are nowhere near. They are not preparing this guy to go to war with the elites of the 168-pound division. He's taken the belt hostage, right? He
absolutely has.
The 168-pound version of Teofimo Lopez. He got the strap. He's going to take it hostage. He's going to milk that thing. He's going to squeeze it for every dollar he can. And then when he finally has to step in the ring with somebody that's an elite level, he will give it up.
Well,
by hook or by crook, he will lose that belt.
That's a great point, bro, because I'll tell you what. It didn't seem like the boxing consensus gave Plant a hard time about his mandatory, or it could have been a voluntary. It was never really revealed against a burned out, washed up Truax. Let's be honest. Truax is a good guy, but he's well past his years in boxing.
Yeah. Hasn't had a significant win in years.
No. And he still went to 12 rounds. Now, you take Canelo's opponent and put him against the two guys, either one of the two guys that Plant's faced in his defenses, and he walks through them. Because he's a more dangerous opponent. He's a guy who's fought against a higher level, against guys like, Durrell and others. But For some reason, they keep, for whatever they're trying to make him the sacrificial lamb. Who knows? Now, Benavidez, on the other point, he started making comments about Benavidez. Benavidez is very clear. He dislikes Plant. He feels that he's been disrespected by Plant. He feels that he's been disrespected by the boxing writers because Plant continues to run this thing about Benavidez's past history, the indiscretions that he's had in the past that cost him his title. The bottom line is, the day, if Plant thinks he's going to take a beating from Canelo, a night with Benavidez possibly could be the end of his career, if not possibly the end of his career.
Puts him in the hospital.
Okay, so
yeah.
So Benavidez got 23 fights, Plant 21, Alvarez, Canelo 55.
Yeah.
Okay. So Benavidez, is he? I mean, I don't want to seem naive here, but I haven't seen a whole lot of his fights. So
I'll tell you. I'll keep it real brief, bro.
Powerful, or I mean,
he's not just powerful.
Is he skillful? I mean,
yes.
because
he's very skillful and he hits very hard. He's a freak for 168 pounds, bro.
He moves.
He could fight at like
he's tall. He's 6'1".
6'1.5", but it's his speed, his movement. He moves like a welterweight. He's able to do things in the ring that you just don't see big guys do. Go back and watch the Callum Smith fight against Canelo. Very robotic for that height. Benavidez is the same height. Benavidez doesn't fight that way. He's very aggressive, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. And when he hurts you, it's good night.
And he has very fast hands, man.
Very fast.
His his hands are fast, man.
Yeah.
I mean, who's his trainer?
I think it's his father. His father.
His father, yeah.
His father, yeah. His father trains him.
Real good people, man. The Benavidez is. We did a interview with his brother, his older brother Jose. Mike did it when on the undercard of the Tyson Fury Wilder fight. And he said about his brother still lived at home. He's like, his dad would tell him before the fight. He said, hey, Mijo, get your bag together and stuff, but don't forget to make your room and get those plates out of there and stuff. He's a guy who's a world champion. Get ready to go for a second strap,
Yeah.
So,
okay, Eric, AJ, let's touch a little bit on, now how did Edgar Berlanga's name get brought up in all this?
So what happened was big mouth, top rank, I'm going to call him fanboy, Edgar Berlanga, who's currently 18-0 with 18 knockouts, trying to go to break Tyrone Brunson's record. But the bottom line is Berlanga wanted to put himself in there because he feels that he's the elite level. Well, he used the wrong person's name in David Benavidez. Benavidez is well aware of him. He's never sparred against him, but he knows him personally. But there was one thing that Berlanga...
I thought he knocked him out in sparring.
No. The person who knocked him out in sparring was Erickson Lubin.
Oh, okay.
Benavidez was there and filmed it because already he was getting a distaste for this guy because he had a big mouth. He was a Tiafimo just in a bigger shape,
Yeah.
People can say, well, there's no this. I'll send you the video. Believe me. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter if Berlanga only had 4 fights at the time or 8 fights, whatever it was.
Your chin is your chin. You don't develop a chin.
Now, don't get me wrong. Erickson Lubin is a monstrous puncher, but he's not David Benavidez. And the thing is, if Berlanga thinks he's going to be able to swarm Benavidez like he does, like this Clarks or these other guys that are half dead, or they pushed him out of the limo to get him into the ring, it's a different story.
No.
Berlanga is...
So Berlanga's going to be fighting Benavidez?
No.
He's just using his name. He's
okay. I was going to say that's not even going to be. Yeah,
it's no different than these YouTubers calling out pro fighters that they know they have no chance against. Let's be honest with you.
Yeah, they're just...
Berlanga has a long trail before he even gets to Benavidez. If Benavidez even stays at 168, there's already rumors that he may venture up to light heavyweight here real soon.
What you're saying? So what you're saying? Those YouTubers like if I were to call out Muhammad Ali right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, baby. I'll take you on.
Well, he's dead, but I mean,
yeah. Well, you know what I mean.
You know what? The best Edgar Berlanga can hope for is that a WBO title becomes vacant at some point down the line, and Uncle Bob picks up the phone, makes a call to the president of the WBO, and sets up a mandatory or a fight for the vacant title against some handpicked opponent, and then he wins the title. Because that's pretty much the way Top Rank operates these days. A lot of these guys are fighting for vacant titles, with the exception of a few. How many titles or subpar champions did Terrence Crawford beat? And I'm not the only one saying it. I've seen a lot of guys recently talk about that, Terrence was the undisputed guy at 140, but he fought in one of the weakest eras of the 140 division ever. Now, the 140 division is now not as weak as it was. It's actually a good division now. Well, hence he's no longer there at 140. I think Terrence Crawford could probably still make 140, but he figures, hey, you know what? These, the pro grades, Zepedas, Taylors. Those are guys those are not guaranteed wins against those guys. Those are tough, hardcore fights.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh when you were talking. I'm just going through and I'm taking a look at some of these fighters and whatnot. This is Berlanga's picture.
Yeah, tough
he's
guy.
He's a bit of a knucklehead.
What's with the teeth?
Hey, all right. So now we kind of know where there is obviously a lot of talk in and around 168, which is, kind of exciting that these guys talk and continue to jockey for position. At the end of the day, all roads lead to Canelo Alvarez. He's the money man. He's the A side. He owns that division as far as I'm concerned. After he beats Billy Joe Saunders, he's going to hold 3/4 of the crown, or no. He currently owns the WBC 168 and the WBA, and Caleb Plant owns the IBF, right?
No.
Billy Joe owns the WBO.
No, Billy Joe Saunders is a WBO.
WBO.
I'm looking at it now.
Benavidez is the former WBC.
And Canelo now has that belt.
The WBC and Plant has
the IBF.
The
IBF.
Yeah, Saunders has the WBO. Yeah, Saunders has the WBO.
Yeah. So, like I said, all roads lead to Canelo. These guys all want the payday. I mean, do they really want the fight? No. Do they want the payday? Yeah. Who wouldn't?
I think a lot of people do. But, like I said, right now,
David
Benavidez has got a date coming up right now against a tough guy and Ronald Ellis on the 13th. So that's going to be this weekend.
That's coming up this weekend.
Yeah. So I don't see Benavidez. And Benavidez was very court, but he was just kind of like, his focus is on Ellis because it's a guy not to be taken lightly. Yeah, Benavidez is the heavy favorite, but it's still a guy who's coming in, with one loss. He's a big puncher and stuff. You just gotta you can't overlook those guys because all those future paydays can be thrown out the window if he trips up against Ellis this week.
Yeah. Let's jump into a fight that was just that had been obviously in the rumor mill for a long time, and they had a verbal agreement, but actually was officially announced this past week. Was the 140-pound unification between Josh Taylor from Scotland and Jose Ramirez from he's from Fresno, right? From California. That's going to be on ESPN, regular ESPN, May the 22nd, Saturday, May the 22nd. Great fight. I think we've kind of touched on that a little bit. I'm sticking strongly with Taylor. I think Taylor has enough dog in him to stand and trade when he needs to. And I think he's superior boxer than Ramirez. I think the difference between Chon Cepeda and Taylor, 22nd. The difference between Chon Cepeda and Taylor was, I think Chon is now just coming into his own in terms of the confidence that he possesses now, as opposed to when he fought Ramirez the first time, even though I felt he won that fight, but that's another that we've already discussed that. I like Taylor in that fight. I think Taylor at this point takes Ramirez's belt, and I think he becomes unified at 140. What do you guys think?
I have to agree with you. I like Josh Taylor in this fight too for so many reasons, but there's one thing that kind of worries me a little bit about this fight, and that is the fact that Ramirez is that poster boy, and they're already kind of setting Ramirez up for a future date. I think that date, if he wins this bout against Terrence Crawford, will still happen. The thing is that Taylor is not a slick boxer. He's a guy that can move. He knows how to fight small and do things. The pressure, he's going to engage Ramirez, obviously. This is going to be a slugfest. I just don't know, because to me, Ramirez is the much harder hitter. He's not Chon Cepeda style hitting, but he's still a hard hitter. Taylor suffered a lot of damage in the fight against Prograis, even though he was able to be victorious. If he gets in an ugly match like that, gets cut or something, it's not beyond top breaking them to
stop that fight.
The rug right out from underneath Taylor's feet. Taylor has to come in there and take a page out of what Chon did. You can power punch, you can engage this guy, you keep him guessing by
box
him. Yeah, that's how you beat Ramirez. I think in reality, it's a double-edged sword for Ramirez. If Ramirez is victorious against Taylor and doesn't get that mega fight that he wants against Terrence Bud Crawford, well, guess what? There's a monster looming at number one, and it's your mandatory, and that's Chon Cepeda.
Yeah, and this is a fight that he doesn't want. He's come up with so many excuses since that fight took place.
Who would want it?
He had everything in his favor. He was at home, the A side, everything in his favor. He had the benefits of, he was a top ranked fighter. Chon Cepeda's not. He was co-promoted for top ranked that fight. He's with Zanfer Promotions. The same thing applies to Taylor now. And if Taylor's people aren't dumb, they need to know this going into this fight. Hey, listen, even though we're considered, he even might be a slight favorite in the fight. I think in the eyes of the boxing purists, he's considered like 1 and 1A. I think he's considered a little bit higher rated than Ramirez. But coming into Vegas, I think the fight's going to be in Vegas. It will be in Vegas with limited capacity, probably at the MGM Grand. They're probably going to have 10,000 people there. He needs to know, do not leave this in the hands of the judge. You need to win convincingly, or they will not. They're
not going to give it to him.
They're not going to give it to him.
Well, I'll tell you, and I'm going to let you jump in on this right now, Eric, but the other thing about Taylor right now that kind of concerns me a little bit, his last fight back in September of 2020, it ended in the first round against Kogson. Before that, it was his victory over Reese Prograis in 2019. Josh Taylor hasn't been very, very active. Yeah, the COVID thing and everything else going on.
He looked good in that last fight, though. He caught that kid with the body shot, and that kid looked tough. He hit that kid with a body shot and put the kid down. The kid couldn't continue. Yeah.
But the thing about now, the knock I got on Ramirez right now, his fight against Victor Postol back in August of 2020, he didn't look very good.
No, not at all. And not at all.
It was a very close decision. You know what I'm saying? Actually, one judge, Dave Moretti, had it 114. Steve Weisfeld had it 116-112, and Tim Cheatham had it 115-113.
Yeah.
A lot of people felt that Postol might have done enough. Now, to me, honestly, if you struggle with Victor Postol, that tells me Ramirez isn't doing the work in the gym like he should be doing. He's not evolving like Chon Cepeda did, how he showed against Branchek. He's got to worry about Taylor. Taylor's is going to have the upper hand, but I'm going to go back to it again. Any advantage, a cut, a slip, anything, they're going to use it. They're going to do everything in their power to make Taylor lose this fight.
Okay, yeah. So the mandatory for that is going to be Chon Cepeda afterwards.
We'll he is the mandatory.
Yeah.
But if Bob Arum gets his way, he'll make a fucking few phone calls, use my language, and they'll try to push Chon aside and probably not even try to offer him step aside money. He is the mandatory for Ramirez's belt. And if that belt changes hands, he's been the mandatory. If that belt changes hands, doesn't matter who, he's a mandatory for that belt. He's going to be fighting on the undercard. I talked to his brother a few weeks ago, and his brother said that Chon will be on the undercard of that fight. He'll be the co-main. I'm not sure who they're going to match him up against, but they're going to match him up tough because they've been this guy tough every single time. It's like I don't understand it. He should be getting this title shot, but I get it. The unification fight's a bigger fight. I get it.
I'm hearing that I heard a little something about it. They were talking about it, and I'm hearing it might be Jack Cantrell, who's an undefeated guy coming out
Jack Catterall?
Catterall.
Oh yeah, he'll kill Catterall. I saw that kid's last fight. He's
so
on that same level.
Taylor or Ramirez, who do you think does not want to fight Chon?
Neither
one of them.
Neither one of them do.
If you watch that Baranchek fight, I still got nightmares from that Baranchek fight. You know?
Listen. I'm gonna say this: if I had to choose one that would be willing to step up and fight, I would say Taylor.
Oh, okay.
Because he's a proud Scotsman. He's a guy that, he's a rough and tough guy. I didn't think he was going to take that Regis Prograis fight. And he fought that fight at Regis Prograis. I got to be honest. I had Regis Prograis going into the fight. I thought Regis was going to just dominate that fight. And Josh Taylor showed me another level. He showed me that he's a tough guy, man. He's a tough guy. And he doesn't have, like AJ said, not that one punch pop. He doesn't have that Chon Cepeda knockout power, but he's a tough guy, man. He's a tough guy. But if Josh Taylor wins this fight, we're more likely to see Chon Cepeda versus Josh Taylor in a mega fight than we are to see Ramirez versus Chon. Ramirez doesn't want to fight Chon again. His trainer, Robert Garcia, doesn't want to fight Chon again. They don't. Because Chon, like you said, AJ, Chon is a different fighter now than he was 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago when that fight was fought.
Well, I think he got over that little block, whatever it was.
The mental block.
Yeah, whatever it was that was affecting Chon, where it was almost kind of like it wasn't the opponent's ability and what they were doing to him. Chon would doubt himself. He would start to doubt himself. And this is a guy who's very sturdy, but for some reason, Chon dug deep and he put all that bullshit aside. Maybe it was the hits, the hard hits from Baranchek. Maybe he knocked something loose in Chon, but whatever it did, It created a whole new weapon.
I'm going to tell you something right now. Okay. And I'm not saying this because I know him and I consider him a friend. Jones Zepeda to me is an undefeated fighter.
Absolutely.
The bullshit that happened with Terry Flanagan, that was nonsense.
Yes.
I mean,
absolutely.
he was going to beat Terry Flanagan. He was probably going to beat that guy by about midway through the fight. He was going to knock him out. That nonsense that happened 5 years ago. And then the fight with Ramirez, which I thought he clearly, I had it like an 8 round to 4.
Yeah.
I gave Ramirez a couple of the like rounds, like 7, 8, 9, because
I had an 8-3-1.
But then Chon came on 10, 11, 12 and just finished strong. But you know, what are you going to do? That was Top Rank. There's a hometown decision. They weren't about to let Ramirez lose that fight, whatever. He's an undefeated fighter, in my opinion, in my mind. Nobody's physically beat that man yet.
No. And he's only getting better. And Eric, one of the things too is there's another fighter that was just thrown into this mix that's going to fall in there. Javonte Davis just announced that he is moving up
to 135.
Tank Davis?
No, he's moving up to the 140-pound division.
Ooh.
So he's talked about it, and they're already talking about him against Mario Barrios. I'm going to tell you something right now. I know everybody's going to say Javonte because of what he did to Leo Santa Cruz. I'm not totally sold on Barrios, but the one thing I will say about this guy, he's fought a higher level guys, and he always finds a way. This is a guy who just always seems to
Mario,
find a
the
way.
gladiator, right? He goes by the gladiator, right?
Yeah, Barrios. Yeah, the champ, you know? So
yeah.
he's gonna go for the title.
PBC fighter. He's a tough kid.
Yeah.
He's a tough kid. Yeah, I've seen him fight.
So it was announced yesterday and stuff that Javonte was doing this and stuff, which you know, I think he wants to get in there and get these fights. You know, he's dropped a couple names. Obviously, Chon wasn't one of them, but he's dropped names like you know, because he beat Pedraza, and Pedraza's in that division. So you know, he figures he's got to be a guy in there. But one of the names that they also dropped was Robert Easter, who I thought looked really impressive against Ryan Martin. So I mean, you know, we'll see what happens. But right now, you know, Ramirez and Taylor, that's a hotbed. I can't wait to watch it.
Let's go ahead and we've talked a little bit about the Taylor Ramirez. Let's go ahead and jump to the other fight that was just announced, and this is going to happen the week prior to the Taylor Ramirez fight. It's going to be the main event on the zone. Devin Haney will be defending his title against Jorge Linares.
Wow.
At 135 pounds.
And it's going to be at 135, huh?
135.
Wow. I got to tell you, I think this is a step too big for Devin Haney. I know people are going to go, well, you know, Linares.
Haney versus who?
Devin Haney, the WBA 135-pound champion. Well, he owns one version of the WBA title against Linares, who's the former undisputed
two-time champion. Yeah.
Got a lot of fights, Linares, right?
Yeah.
He's got 50-something fights, 56 fights or something like that.
Linares doesn't have the greatest chin, but I'm going to say it again. Devin Haney's power is, to me, like Teofimo's power. It's a bit overrated. But the thing is,
very overrated.
The experience factor, and I don't think Devin Haney's going to really, really realize the sheer size of Linares until he gets in the ring with him, like Lomachenko did. Lomachenko was successful against Linares, but Linares dropped him and had his moments. The thing is where I think where people are going to fall on Devin Haney, not just because of the name and the height, they're going to go back to Linares' loss, his shocking first-round loss to Cano.
Pablo Cano, yeah.
What they don't understand is Linares moved up to 140 pounds. He was actually fighting Cano at almost welterweight division. So it was a risk that just didn't work out. Yeah. So
that was a bit shocking when we heard that. But then again, you know, I mean, the way I look at it, it's like this. I mean, if Devin Haney goes out there and I mean, if you had to ask me right now who wins the fight, I would say maybe Devin Haney ekes out an ugly, boring decision, because Devin Haney he did the same thing with Gamboa. He doesn't possess really that dog in him to stand and trade and really take a guy out.
I don't see that, because to me, Gamboa is not even a midget version of Linares. Don't get me, Gamboa has his moments, but to compare Gamboa against Linares is like comparing apples and oranges. It just doesn't work. To me, Devin Haney is taking on a fighter. I think they're basing it on his soft chin, but Devin Haney, unless he's going to do some type of Antonio Margarito thing where he's going to cast his fist, I don't see him possessing the power to dent Linares. If Lomachenko, it took him as long as it took him to really dent Linares.
10 rounds, right? 10 rounds. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think Linares is a slicker fighter. I think he's a fighter that knows how to fight at a distance, and he's definitely possesses one punch knockout power. You know what I'm saying? If he would have caught Lomachenko a little cleaner on that shot, it could have been good night for Lomachenko, because that guy, he's got huge hitting. He's got power. You know?
Yeah, he does have power. Yeah.
So
So I mean that fight's. I mean we're in the second week of March right now. That fight will be here before you know it. You know that May's shaping up to be good fights with Canelo fight. 2 weeks later, you got or a week later. I'm sorry, you'll have Haney Linares. The week after that, you got Taylor Ramirez. So May's shaping up to be a good fight month. I mean, something to look forward to.
It was. I think it is. Like Eric, like we were talking about it too and stuff. That 140-pound division, and you agree, Eric? It's got to be the hottest division in boxing. I know everybody's talking about the welterweight.
Yeah, you got Lopez, Garcia, Haney, Loma, or TF.
Loma. Loma's still right there. People are sleeping on Loma.
I know. Loma was actually a bit out of character. I don't know if you saw the statement that he made the other day.
Cambosis.
You know, talking about Devin Haney and talking about Teofimo Lopez. He said, you know what? He's all basically keep my name out of your mouth since you're too much of a bitch to step in the ring with me. I was like, whoa, you know?
Yeah.
But hey, getting back real quick, Mike, before we get off the subject, you mentioned something about Chon Zepeda, about Top Rank trying to match him tough, maybe try to sidestep him. We had this discussion before. Chon Zepeda at this point has to be a different Chon Zepeda. He's got to not accept any alternative other than what he deserves. If he allows Top Rank to sidestep him again, then it's all on Chon Zepeda. Chon needs to step up and say, no, I'm the number one contender. He's mine.
That's a lot of it has to do with his promoter, Fernando Beltran. His promoter has to make that demand because he is the mandatory. He's been, like you said, it's been for over a year. I mean, he fought the kid from San Antonio, the kid, I forgot the kid's name, and then he ended up fighting. And then, he's supposed to fight Baranchik, remember? Then Baranchik got injured or something, and then he ended up fighting the other kid, Hector Castaneda, I think it was his name. Then he ended up fighting Baranchik and scoring that vicious knockout. So he's been the number one guy for just waiting. So,
hey, Mike,
we'll see, man.
Yeah,
Mike, when he does, and hopefully he will stick to his guns and he'll get that fight. But when he does, no matter where it is, I think we need to be there. Oh, you, me, AJ.
Hey, if it's anywhere close by, I will be there, man. If they have crowds again in Vegas, I will be there. Like I said,
and let me know. I'd love to be there. Honest to God, I would love to be there.
Chon is a great man. Chon and his brother. I mean, Chon is a great kid. He's a phenomenal fighter. He's just really, he's one of those guys. He's a natural, man. He's a naturally gifted fighter. 17 amateur fights, but you wouldn't know it by looking at the kid, the way he spars and the way he trains. So
I honestly think that the Canelo people made a mistake by putting Chon on that undercard, because as many people are going to want to see Alvarez and Saunders, there's so many fans out there, new fans that have been reborn because of Chon's dramatic knockout of Baranchik, that are going to want to see the next Chon Zepeda victor. I'm telling you now, this Chon Zepeda, Alvarez is talking about being the best. But being the best doesn't mean you're going to be the hottest product. Right now, if Chon Zepeda goes in there, I don't care who they match with, and does this again, dude, all the hype they were giving to Teofimo Lopez just got handed in a box to Chon Zepeda.
Yeah. Yeah. I talked, it's funny. I talked to his brother, Rene, shortly after Teofimo beat Lomachenko in that disputed decision. Whatever people want to say was disputed in my eyes. Either way, I asked him about that, and he says, hey, we'd take that fight like that. No problem. No problem. They have no fear of that kid whatsoever. That kid, anyways, that's a whole nother discussion. Yeah. Let's jump to this fight now. Okay, this fight. Okay, okay, so May looks like we have the Canelo fight. A week after, we got Haney Linares. The week after that, we've got Taylor Ramirez. The following week after that, you got Teofimo versus Cambosis. Okay, I don't know if you guys know this, but you follow this past week, the purse bid that happened at the beginning of the week, right? Bob Arum couldn't guarantee a certain amount of money, so it went to purse bid. DAZN, Matchroom put up a purse. Triller ended up winning the purse bid. Triller is the company that put on that, I believe they put on the Mike Tyson, Roy Jones thing. Triller, I don't even know what it is. It's some kind of sports promotion, something. They put up $6.1 million for that fight. And that fight's going to take place May 29th. The date and the venue yet to be determined. I know how we all have already talked about that fight. Cambosis doesn't even belong anywhere near that ring. I predict that's going to be an easy short night for Teofimo. But here's another fight do you guys want to see anything about that fight, or just
what's that one?
Teofimo versus Cambosis. That's May 29th. So May, you got fights every weekend in May.
Every weekend?
Every weekend.
So we're going to be busy.
Yeah. every weekend in May. There's quality fights every weekend. Like I said, I'm hearing that they're going to put one of these YouTube stars, whatever, these clowns again on that card to basically, they put up a big amount of money for the purse bid. So they need to somehow try to retrieve some of that money back. So they're going to try to pull in that goofball YouTube audience, and they will. I mean, these knuckleheads will pay whatever the pay-per-view is, $29-$30 to watch one of these YouTube guys fight. I don't know who's going to fight, but one of these guys. Oh, I think it's going to be the one of the brothers versus the MMA guy, Ben Askren.
I don't even know there.
Yeah, whatever. I don't watch MMA. I know there was a fight last night. I made the mistake of watching the highlights this morning, and I looked and I said, people tune in to watch this nonsense? What a horrible fight. Anyways.
We're just going to hug each other and roll around on the ground. Yeah. No,
it was ridiculous because what happens with these MMA guys is this guy Israel Adesanya, who was doing well in that thing. He ended up losing his title last night, right? He was supposed to be like the next big thing, like the next Khabib or Conor or whatever, right? He ends up getting beat by this. I think this guy was Russian or something, in a really not an entertaining fight at all. But when these guys win 3, 4, 5, 6 fights, right away they start talking about these guys making the crossover. Well, man, their striking skills are so good. They go in there against a Floyd Mayweather or against a Canelo. And this guy was getting tagged by this guy, this Russian guy or whatever this guy was. He was getting his head snapped back by a guy with limited boxing skill. I don't know, man. They just need to stop it, man. Every time a fighter, like when Jones Zepeda knocked out Baranchik, did people in the boxing start saying, well, I don't know, man, maybe this guy can go in there and fight, Conor McGregor next, or fight, Khabib next because of that straight left leg land. It's like, come on, man. It's a different sport.
I think it just comes down to the fact that Dana White is just, I love that, man. That punch is just.
He's always looking to, he wants to legitimize himself because he understands that I don't care what they're saying. There's not an MMA fight right now shown anywhere on ESPN in rotation like there's boxing fights. You could stumble on a Saturday afternoon at 4:00, nothing else going on. You turn it on, you're going to see a classic fight from like 1985 or 1998 or whatever, because boxing just has that mystique to it. I'm biased because I'm a boxing fan, but at the end of the day, I don't hate MMA. I just don't understand the appeal. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm going to watch two guys roll around, I guess you're better off watching a gay porn, but I'm not gay, so I'm not going to watch that. So, I mean, that's what I equate MMA to. But the thing is Dana White's always had a hard-on for boxing. Because let's be honest, at the end of the day, Dana White was a failed boxing promoter. Most of his great fighters or great champions, guys like Anderson, Silva and stuff, were failed boxers. So they're two different sports. I'm going to go back and I'm going to say it again. Mixed martial arts is a type of skill that you acquire by going to a gym, paying some, doctor, Mr. Miyagi or whatever, who you were going to do, Rex Taekwondo, whatever, he's going to teach you this shit. Boxing is a sweet science. It takes years. You don't get title shots unless you're an extreme talent like Lomachenko at an early stage in your career. It takes years to just develop the skills to even be competitive. Keep the two sports out of,
just keep them separate, nothing against the MMA guys. If you guys, if that's your sport, hey, God bless you.
God bless you, man.
The one thing I will say that MMA does get it right is, and this is partially or mostly because they control all the big fighters. They put the best against the best. There's no mandatory.
They don't have a choice. They don't have a choice. They don't have a whole lot of superstars.
Yeah, the talent pool's smaller, so they put the best against the best, and that is a great thing. Don't get me wrong, but boxing is a bigger sport globally. I mean, the talent pool in boxing probably dwarfs MMA talent pool, probably like 10 to 2.
100 to 1.
I mean, with the UFC,
no, I think it's more than that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. How many times can you put Ken Shamrock against, Tank Abbott? I mean, they just couldn't do it anymore. They had to figure something out, Yeah. And even the guys that they have that are brash or whatever and trying to do whatever, it just is what it is. The bottom line is, like with the women right now, you got Amanda Nunes and you're talking about her facing against Clarissa Shields, and you got Dana White saying how Amanda Nunes would knock out Clarissa Shields. Well, listen, I don't even think Clarissa Shields is that impressive of a fighter. No. I saw her fight this weekend. I'm not even going to elaborate on it. But at the end of the day, who taught the skills to Amanda Nunes to make her successful, to beat Ronda Rousey's ass, which we knew was going to happen right away? Was the trainer who worked with Lucas Matisse. The bottom line is Clarissa Shields has an easy night with Amanda Nunes. Unless Nunes takes her fat ass down to the ground, she's going to fucking just be a boxer. And Amanda, because whatever Amanda learned the last couple of years, Clarissa's been doing since she was 9.
Yeah, that's very, very, very true. Very true. Hey, I want your guys' opinion. Here's another fight that was just announced this week. They don't have a date yet, but this was just announced. And I got to say, this is a fight that's probably about 4 or 5 years past its expiration date, but it is a fight. It is a fight that I will tune in and watch. Okay. You can call this the battle.
I'm sorry,
the battle of the chorizos.
4 or 5 years past the expiration date.
No,
that's
Andy
pretty funny.
Reese is gonna fight Chris Ariola.
Wait, say this again.
Andy Reese is gonna fight Chris Ariola.
You gotta be freaking kidding me.
No. Now, great. And Chris Ariola's been in there with Bermain Stavern, Deontay Wilder. Obviously, he's been in there with a higher level of competition overall. Now, Andy Reese has fought Anthony Joshua twice, whatever. What do you guys make of this fight, man? I tell you what, man, I give Chris Ariola a good shot. I give him a good shot at this fight.
I'm going to tell you.
I'm going to root for him. Are you kidding me? That's awesome.
I'm going to tell you what I think about this right now. So when we were at the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder, the first fight over at the Staples Center,
we
we're down in the front row. Fight's over, They had a couple fights afterwards. Just happened to be Chris Ariola.
Yes.
So I'm sitting next to John Molina, Jaime Munguia, and we got Robert Alcazar, we got my brother Mike. All of us were kicking back. We're watching this fight.
Yeah, Renee.
God, I wish I was there. God, I wish I was there.
And it's breaking my heart. Not that I was the biggest fan of Chris Ariola, but I respect him because, he was a Riverside boy, an IE boy just like myself. But so I'm kind of saying, God, dude, I hate seeing Chris in it. I'm rooting for Chris, but this other guy's pretty tough. He's fighting it. And I remember I looked over at John Molina and I was like, and I told Robert Alcazar, I was like, I really think Ariola needs to hang it up, dude. I mean, he's done.
No, he actually looked good in that fight though, man.
No, but I'm just saying, because there was moments when he didn't. So
yeah.
I didn't know it was his daughter sitting next to me. Ariola's daughter was sitting right next to me.
Oh, yeah. No, but look at. I think why you kind of felt bad was like, man, it's like, the arena is now 80% empty now. Everybody's left, but Chris is still there fighting. I gotta tell you guys a quick story real quick. So I fought this charity fight a couple of years ago, right? And the cup that I used,
and you just carried that guy.
No, it was just fun. I'm using this cup, right? and it was a size medium winning cup. And I said, man, why is this thing so goddamn stretched out? And Molina tells me the story that they were at the fights one time. This was pro fights, and they were on the same card. And fucking Ariola forgot his damn cup at home like a dummy. So he let Chris use the cup, stretched the shit out of it. And that's the same one that I used. So the trainer, I was working with Robert Alcazar, but the guy that worked my corner was a guy named Chivo. He was one of Jaime Munguia's guy. He worked my thing. He had to use like a roll and a half of tape on that thing to get that thing to fit me right.
God damn.
But I actually wore a cup, and then it's not a big deal, but I wore a cup that actually Chris Ariola wore in an actual professional fight. I don't know who the fight was. Johnny could probably tell me, but
I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but Ariola might have a second career as a porn star or something. Who knows? He's obviously packing.
No. I mean, just the elastic was so stretched out; it was just hanging off my ass. Anyways, but I gotta say, even in defeat against who's the Polish guy? His name escapes me right now.
Konowski.
Yeah, Adam Kownacki. Hey, Chris Ariola fought his ass off. Chris Ariola fought tough that fight. I mean, he was up against it. But
I needed that laugh.
I give Chris a good shot in this fight, man. And this is going to be when have you ever seen two big quality Mexican-American heavyweights going at it? Andy Reese versus Chris Ariola. It's going to be a war. I promise you that it is going to be a war.
Well, I think the thing is that with Ariola, neither fighter has been very active. Ariola hasn't fought since 2019, but Andy Reese hasn't done anything since his humiliating loss to Anthony Joshua, in which, he didn't even care. He just handed his title over.
You got Joe Goosen in one corner working with Chris, and then you got Reynoso working with Andy. It's going to be a good fight, man.
I want to see what happens, because there's one thing that Chris Ariola possesses, maybe even a little better than Anthony Joshua. And that's a punch. Ariola's a massive puncher. He hurt Konowski in his fight. It was a tough fight. They went 12 rounds. There was moments when it looked like Chris was done, and he would come back. He would land a big punch. I haven't seen that kind of resilience from Andy Reese yet, based on what I saw last time. Now, I saw some videos, some things of him. He looks like he's lost all the weight. That might be a big mistake, because Ariola's a physically big guy.
Yeah.
So you know, he's a fast guy, but there's one thing about Ariola.
He's taller than Andy. I can tell you that. Chris is about 6'1", 6'2". Andy's
6'3".
about 5.
He's
Andy's like 5'11". They got him listed at 6. Bullshit. He's like 5'10", 5'11". Yeah. He's not tall.
But I mean, the thing about Chris Ariola is he's got a chip on his shoulder, even at this juncture in his career, and you saw that in his fight when he fought against
Koznowski. He was trying to win that fight. I mean, it was a close fight. It went to the 10-round decision, right? It was a decision, and I think it was the scorecards were wider than the actual fight itself. I mean, Chris landed a lot of punches against Koznowski, but it just happened to be that Koznowski's got a head like a goddamn piece of granite. You know what I mean? I mean,
and Chris
until he got the wrong shot landed on him by Helenius.
And Chris got that fight because he had that impressive victory against that 17-0 guy, Pierre Augustine, which they didn't expect. He was brought in as the B side. He ends up knocking this guy out in the 3 rounds, and then has that tough fight against Kownacki. So Reese hasn't been in the wars that Ariola's been in. Ariola's been in wars. Klitschko's, you name it. The list goes down. So this is going to say a lot. If Andy Reese loses this, Chris Ariola's got nothing to lose, everything to gain for this victory. Mm-hmm. Andy Reese has to not.
That's a very dangerous fighter, man.
He has to win impressively.
Yeah.
So
he does. He does. He can't struggle.
There is a dangerous fighter.
Nothing to lose.
I'm sorry. Yeah. That's a dangerous fighter. When you have nothing to lose, that's when you actually step up. And Chris Ariola, if he's in that spot, he very well could make a really good night of Andrew.
I think Ariola shocks Reese. I think Ariola does exactly what I said in the beginning. Andy Reese is a guy who was fortunate. He was a guy that caught a guy at just the right moment, a guy who wasn't properly prepared. At the end of the day,
and a guy at the end of the day that's chinny. He's been chinny his entire career. Anthony Joshua is very chinny.
Chris Ariola's not chinny.
He takes a good shot.
He's fast. I'm going to take Ariola in this matchup. I think it's going to be a victory for Ariola. That's what I'm kind of pointing towards.
I tell you what.
And when is that fight going to happen?
I don't think they have a date set yet, but I do know that they announced it, and it's probably going to be here locally, probably here at the Shrine in LA in a few weeks' time, because they're heavyweights. They don't need 8 weeks to train. I mean, they've been training. You know, I know Gooson's been working with Ariola, and then Reese has been down there training with Canelo during all these camps. So it's going to be interesting, man. He's been sparring with the big Cuban guy, Andy Reese. You know, it's gonna be a good fight. I tell you what, I'm excited to watch that fight. I'm very excited to watch that fight. It's a fight I've always thought in the back of my mind, man, what if Ariola fought Andy Reese? You know, two SoCal boys, 2 Mexican Americans going at it, man. But
this could set up a possible thing because, like I said, obviously there's another guy in the heavyweight. You got Robert Helenius with his convincing victory over Kownacki. So who would not want to watch Chris Ariola against Robert Helenius? I mean, come on, there's another great bout for the heavyweight division, but I like the matchup with Gooson and Ariola more than I like the one with Reynoso, because Gooson's been there for a while. And
Ariola's almost 40 too.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought he was 40.
He's 39
he was like
years
30.
old.
Yeah.
39, 40 years old. I mean, it's time for
But you know what though? I gotta say about Chris though, man. Chris in his last couple fights, man, he's actually he's got himself in some good shape. Way better shape than when he was winning those titles. When he was fighting for those titles against like Bermain Stavern, and when he was fighting against Deontay. I mean, he wasn't in the greatest of shape then. He's got himself in better shape. So we're gonna see 2 guys that are, you know, physically, obviously Andy's a lot younger.
Hey, it says April 24th is when that fight's
okay. Happen. So next month we got about 6 weeks from now.
April 24th.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to that fight. I'm telling you. And anybody that says they're not, you're lying through your teeth. You know you're going to tune in to watch that fight. You know you're going to watch that fight.
I was within the vicinity where I could drive, where I don't got to worry about somebody shoving something at my nose or my ass in order to see if I'm sick. I mean, if it's within vicinity, I'd love to be there because obviously we're going to pull for Chris Ariola. He's an IE boy. You know what I'm saying? He's a local boy and stuff. So we're going to go there. I know Johnny knows him. You know, he's personal.
Very well, yeah.
You know, so Ariola's doing the one thing that John Mooney used to always say. He's fighting for his family. He's fighting to feed his family.
Yeah.
I don't know what Andy Reese is doing right now. So, but I mean, if he thinks working with the Reynosos is going to make him that much better of a fighter, he was never that bad of a fighter in the first place. It's just his mindset. His
discipline was just always in question. Yeah. Discipline.
Yeah. Definitely discipline. I mean, just look at his physique, and you could tell the discipline was the problem.
Well, Andy just doesn't come off to me as a tough guy.
Not the fat shame. I don't want to fat shame anybody. Sorry, I'm not going to fat shame anybody. The fact of the matter is, if you're a boxer and that's your livelihood and that's your job, you're going to be in the freaking gym. You're going to be running. You're going to be doing whatever you need to do to get to the best weight, the best possible physical specimen of yourself, so that when it comes time to actually
when you
put
get
on
that
the
call,
show, you put on the goddamn show.
Especially now during the time of COVID, man, guys just got to stay ready, man. I mean, I know some fighters that have been training for a year straight. I mean, look at Jaime Munguia. I watch his videos, his training videos. Jaime's training every day. Doesn't matter. He's got a fight coming up or he doesn't have a fight coming up. He's training every day. I'm hoping he fights on that undercard, on that May card, that the zone card between Canelo and Billy Joe. I hope that he's on that card. I firmly believe he's going to be, and it's going to be against a guy at 160. Who knows who it could be? AJ, any, if you had to pick a name out there that somebody they're looking at, who would you say it might be at 160?
I think they're going to try to start at this point. They're going to start to try to measure Munguia against some of these other guys. And don't get me wrong. The two people that Munguia has already tested, the three that he's tested already in the middleweight division, and Spike O'Sullivan, his recent win over Johnson, the one he broke his lip.
Oh no, that's
Toriano Johnson.
Serrano Johnson, yeah.
Serrano Johnson. Those two opponents are solid guys. Everybody's gonna say, "Well, Munguia hasn't fought Charlo, and he hasn't fought." Well, who's Charlo fought? Let's be honest. I see this, and I know this is people are gonna think this is weird, but I think it's possibly gonna be a guy like an Erickson Lubin. I think it's time they're gonna do something like that, and they're gonna put him in there against a guy who's fighting for that same position that Munguia is. Munguia's got the advantage being the former champion. Lubin's been right on the cusp of it, other than his shocking defeat to Charlo. That would be a great matchup. I would still lean towards Munguia, but Lubin has huge, probably next to Munguia, the second hardest hitter in the middleweight division.
Let me ask you something from a business standpoint. Do you think you could generate enough revenue on this card to make the Canelo versus Saunders and the co-main Munguia versus Triple G, or is there just not enough money there for all four of those stars to get paid properly?
I think that would be a big money maker.
Great. That would be huge.
You think they could generate enough money right now, or you think that Triple G Munguia fight is its own fight? It's its own main event
I think
fight.
It's its own fight, because I think in the situation Munguia is in right now, let's be honest, next to Canelo, there's no more popular Mexican fighter in boxing than Jaime Munguia. Munguia is generating, right before the COVID, he was generating huge numbers. Fanfare. He had his doubters out there, but at the end of the day,
he still
Munguia was doing what he's doing. Just like Canelo, the best always seem to take the most flack, the most resentment. They're always looking for their shortcomings. But I'm going to be honest with you. I think there's a better opportunity of Canelo Munguia later on, based on Canelo's pride, taking that fight than Triple G and Munguia. I don't see Triple G at this junction in his career taking that risk, because there is a huge risk, and the risk will lead to a huge fall. Munguia
hits like a damn sledgehammer. I don't think
it's that difficult of a night. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're crazy." Let me tell you something right now. You put Toriano Johnson in the ring, who's really a 168 pounder, against a guy like Triple G, and it's going to be a competitive fight based on who he's fought lately. Triple G has his moments, but he's still a bit Frankenstein, statuesque, hard, not real hard to hit. It's the body. And the last couple of fights, people have figured out that Triple G, even though he looks like he's stacked, it's a little weak, it's a little soft in there. You get crushed by a Munguia body shot, all right? It's over. If you were stunned by Deryanchenko, you're going to throw up your liver against Munguia.
Yeah, because Jaime's a much physically bigger man than Deryanchenko.
Oh, tell Jaime to get a haircut, would you please?
I kind of like his hair.
It started to look like Ricky Martin, dude. Tell me to get his haircut.
No, I didn't. Okay, so I haven't seen it. I obviously missed it. So yeah, tell him to keep his hair short.
No, he's going to. He'll do it by that. But I mean, I saw it the other day. He was looking like Ricky Martin when he did.
He looked like a menudo or what?
Yeah, like he was going to go like, get a cannonball.
Anyways, hey, let's end with this, guys, because this is another fight that was announced and we kind of didn't get a chance to really talk about it. But it's going to happen at the end of this month, March 31st in Newcastle, Australia. Tim Tszyu is fighting Dennis Hogan in Australia. What do you guys think of that fight? I know Dennis Hogan and his team were saying Tim is overrated. He's this, he's living off of his father's name, which to me, when they say that, all you're doing is you're fucking pouring salt into an open wound.
All you're doing is showing your lack of knowledge of boxing. If you follow Tim Zoo's career, he doesn't follow his. If anything, he does the exact opposite.
He does the opposite. His dad has, I mean, his dad is a legend, Hall of Famer, first ballot Hall of Famer. He was the last true unified 140 pounder before Terrence Crawford.
Who's he fighting? Wait,
he's fighting Dennis Hogan. Dennis Hogan is the guy that went 12 rounds with Jaime Munguia, and it was a very, I gotta say, I'm not gonna lie, it was a very close fight, but that was a very, very tough camp for Jaime. That fight could have went either way. Dennis Hogan then went on to move up in weight and fight Jamal Charlo at 160. Had no business really going up to 160 and lasted 6 or 7 rounds and ended up getting stopped. It wasn't devastating. He went down, he got up, he got hit with a few punches. Referee waved it off. It wasn't like he was like a devastating punch, but I gotta say, there's something about this Tim Tszyu kid, man.
He's special.
The conviction in which he speaks of, and this kid, I think he's going to go out there and do a number on Dennis Hogan and starch him out of there. For a lot of
reasons, bro. For a lot of reasons. I'm going to tell you right now, Dennis Hogan calls himself the Hurricane, but I'm going to tell you right now, those wins aren't going to blow in Australia. Because I tell you right now, Tim Tszyu, I feel honestly, has a disdain for Dennis Hogan at this point. People are going to say, well,
that's on the 31st, right?
Measure this bout.
Yeah.
This is going to be an actual better version of Hogan than the Hogan that showed against Charlo, because he's actually going to fight at the right weight class now, 154, rather than the blown up 160, which Charlo could have fought him at. Munguia, on the other hand, when he fought against Hogan, this is a guy who was killing himself to try to make that weight. He had no business being in that ring at that weight, but he did it, and he got through it, by the skin of his teeth. But you put that fight at 160 now, I don't see the Hurricane asking for Munguia, because I would love to see it, because Munguia ends him in 1 round. I think Tim Tszyu makes an example and shows everybody that it's not just guys like Jaime Munguia and Charlo. You guys better open up your eyes and start realizing there's a Hurricane, and it's not coming from Ireland. It's coming from Australia, and his name is Tim Tszyu.
And I'll tell you what, Tszyu is going to basically break this guy's nose.
Oh, he's going to break him down to pieces. I think his fight's going to be fast.
Well, the one thing that Tim Tszyu, this kid, he has such a determination when that bell rings. He's physically so much stronger than he looks. He's not the most muscular guy in the world. I mean, he's strong, physically strong, but he doesn't look like a Charlo. He doesn't look like a
He's like Erickson Lubin. He's another guy.
Yeah, but he's physically strong though. Yeah. You could see it. I saw a shot of him the other day, a picture of him when he was landing a punch against Jeff Horn, and you just saw. I think it was his lead leg was that left quad, and it was just like he just had this strong lower center of gravity. He doesn't have the biggest upper body, big biceps, big bulging muscles, but that strength is like his dad. His dad was the same way. His dad was kind of boxy. Costa wasn't like physically, just like an Adonis, but he carries that 154 pounds very, very well. And I'm telling you, man, after this fight, if he does what I think he's going to do, if he goes out there and looks impressive against Dennis Hogan, he right away is going to be in line. He's already in line to fight Castano. Okay. He's going to do this fight. Castano is the guy that just beat Teixeira. Now, Castano might try to cash out against one of the bigger fighters at 154 because he's going to get a big payday there. But wherever that belt ends up, that WBO belt ends up, that is Tim Tszyu's belt. They're just holding it for him at this moment. I firmly believe that.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean,
that's a fight I wish I could go to, man. If we weren't in this crazy pandemic, because the end of March is my birthday, I would fly to Australia and I would go watch that fight live. It's going to be live in Newcastle, 50,000 seat stadium.
So just in case Tim Tszyu or his people are watching, just ask, go ahead and forward a ticket for my brother so they can actually go to this fight. He's been a huge fan.
I couldn't go to for a while. We've been watching Tim since he turned pro. I watched his first fight against Zoran Cassidy.
I think it was like the third
Tim
fight.
Tszyu, come on, step up.
Like that,
step up, help a brother out. So
I know it was a different situation at the time when Tszyu was doing what he did and stuff, but the thing is, it's like,
don't get us a copyright strike now.
No, we'll be fine. What happened here?
Wow. Yeah,
this is against Horn right here, right? Yeah.
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just the last few seconds, but just kind of shows you, just gives you a little bit of a look.
He refused to allow himself to be bullied by Jeff Horn. He manhandled Jeff Horn.
Yeah, Jeff Horn's a physically strong guy for that weight. You know, but you can see it. Horn was already looking for a way out. He kept looking at the referee. It was just a matter of time. He was not getting sloppy. He's still staying composed.
He's fucking, excuse my language. He is so patient, that kid. He is patient for a guy with only like what 17, 18 fights.
17
now, he
fights.
Is so patient.
That's something has to come natural. It absolutely has to just come.
He's got the discipline. He learned from his father. He learned from his uncle Igor, who's been his trainer since he was an amateur. The kid is going to be the future world champion, and I firmly believe that. And I mean, I don't know. It's something about the kid in the press conferences when he talks with the conviction he speaks with. You know, it's not manufactured bravado. It's real. He says these boys, he calls me, he's all, these boys are standing in my way. And he says, it's not personal. He's all, but I'm here to take their soul. I'm here to just end them, destroy them, because they're standing in my way. And like we said, AJ, he's fighting for more than just his own respect. He's fighting for his
family.
He's fighting for the name, but I think even more than just a name, he wants his own respect. I said that backwards. He wants his own respect.
Well, you know, the thing about Tim Tszyu is a person who I'm adding into my new Enter the Ring Live called the No Touch Team. And what that means is it's certain fighters out there that people just in the same division don't want to touch. Let's be honest. Jones Zepeda's in that club. Jaime Munguia is another one. And guess who just got recently added? I'll tell you right now. His name's Tim Tszyu.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fighters that just won't even mention his name. I know they kept showing that video when he beat the one guy and Charlo was kind of like, oh, this guy ain't shit. Okay, well, we'll see, because the time's coming, because eventually he's going to be the man, you know, in line. So, I mean, you're going to have to fight him. You know, Tim Tszyu, I don't see him as the kind of guy that's going to accept side money. He's going to be like, it's my time, dude.
I think Jermell moves up from 154 before Tim gets there.
Yeah,
into the elite. He goes up to 160.
He doesn't want to.
His brother might go to 168. Maybe there's, you know, the money's up at 168, because it seems like everybody at 160 is slowly, you know, graduating to the 168 division. You know what I mean? With you still got Canelo and Munguia there, but they're on different platforms. So those fights aren't that easy to make for those guys at 160. So I see
Charlo simply doing it because he doesn't want to. He knows that dent in his career would be devastating, because not only is he losing to a guy who he feels doesn't have the physical stature to beat him, doesn't really know too much about the name, regardless if
they don't know. These guys aren't boxing purists. They probably don't even know the name Kostya.
He looks at him as a soft guy who probably, you know,
a regional guy
from Australia, but he's not. This is a guy who was bred to fight. You saw it in his father. You see it in him. His uncle who trains him. It's a tight knit group, you know, and it's working.
You know, it's scary too. He's got a younger brother, Nikita, who was actually a better amateur than him, but Nikita decided to go off to college, and he's becoming an architect or something like that. You know what I mean?
That's pretty scary.
But there's a kid that was like a phenomenal fighter as well. I mean, really, really skilled fighter. Probably the more skilled of the two. But
yeah.
All right, guys, we're about an hour and 12 into this. So
hey, so real quick before we go, so fights coming up this week. We didn't real briefly and stuff. I know we got let's just touch on it real quick.
Yeah,
go ahead, just give the information on that fight so people are aware of it, Mike.
Well, Chocolatito is fighting is that 112 pounds against Estrada, right?
Estrada.
And this is a rematch. This is the trilogy.
The trilogy.
This is the third fight. And this is a fight that you know, Chocolatito, you know, at one point he was considered the pound for pound #1 fighter in the world. He ended up losing to the Thai fighter, Sorang Visai. Well, he's got a couple of different names. He ended up losing to him in devastating fashion, right? And then in the rematch, he lost devastatingly, right? Was it a first round knockout, a second round knockout, Chocolatito? But since then has rebuilt his career, and this is going to be a great fight, man. I believe
the scorecards. I saw that first fight against Estrada. That was back in 2012. That was back in 2012. And I'll tell you right now, those cards were wide. They should not even been that wide. That was a dog fight for Chocolatito. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Estrada's been on a hot streak. This is a dangerous fight for him. You know?
Yeah, this is going to be a great fight. This is a fight that, you know, it's. I believe they're fighting on. Is it ESPN? They're fighting on.
I believe so.
Roman Gonzalez versus Juan Estrada. Let me see. I could have sworn it was on DAZN. It might be on ESPN.
I'm double checking it right now just to look. Well, it's Matchroom, so it's probably gonna be
DAZN. It's a Matchroom card coming from Dallas, Texas. Yeah, and I tell you, man. Oh, and Jessica McCaskill, the rematch with Cecilia Brækhus. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Brækhus did not lose that first fight.
No,
that was a close toss-up fight. It should have been a draw. And in that
McCaskill doesn't win this one.
I think Brækhus wins her titles back.
I'm just going to keep going back to the problem with Brækhus. She has absolutely no power. I mean, people talk about Clarissa Shields having no power. This woman has absolutely no power. Matter of fact, the girl who Clarissa Shields did fight this past week, who looked like a 30-year-old woman who works over at Walmart, she was mean, but she had absolutely not one knockout on her record.
Yeah.
And she was catching Clarissa, but Clarissa was just, it was a messy, sloppy fight. It was embarrassing. But getting back to
so hold on. Okay. So I got to throw something in here real quick. So if this stupid Equality Act,
what's that?
It doesn't matter because you're going to end up having gay guys in there fighting women. So don't even worry about women's boxing.
I don't know boxing. I can say I'm an MMA, but I don't say boxing. I don't see.
No.
It's because he'll get his ass kicked. There's some tough girls out there. Amanda Serrano and some other ones. Some of these girls can fight.
Yeah. What's up with Amanda Serrano? She's been on the show for a while. What's going on with Amanda Serrano? She going back to MMA or what's the deal?
Who knows? I mean, nobody really knows. Women's boxing's in a bad state right now. You have a couple that I call the Sports Illustrated models and stuff that are kind of making a little bit of headlines. But since the days of girls like Ann Wolf and Holly Holm and some other ones, those days are gone. Boxing and women it's a dead sport. The only reason why Clarissa Shields is winning because she outsizes her opponents most of the time. And she's fighting against women who really don't have any background in boxing. Let's be honest, So
maybe we should get our daughters going.
Nah, I don't want them getting punched in the face.
If you would have seen some of the women that were on this card, I mean, our daughters are way too pretty. I mean, some of these women, I mean, goddamn, I thought they were guys. They were horrible.
Very true.
All right, so this weekend, tune into that Chocolatito fight. I think that kind of wraps it up. There's a couple more fights happening in March, but I think once we get into May, May is going to be a great month of boxing, guys. I mean, I'm going to ramp up for that. And like I said, maybe with any luck, things start opening up more and more week by week. Hey, we might be able to attend a couple of these fights live, Yeah.
I'll tell you, it'd be nice.
We'll bring you video from there.
That'd be great. Yeah, for sure.
Hey guys, great show today. You know what I'm saying? I know we were out for a couple days, but we're revamping some stuff. We got some big things coming up with Enter the Ring Live here with the next few weeks and stuff. Just be patient with us and just know, like I said, we're going to continue to be.
We're going to keep grinding, man. We enjoy talking about the sport. Like I said,
we ain't here to, I'm not shouting out, holla hollas to my buddies and stuff from here. I don't care about all that. This is about boxing. We're going to give you our take and stuff, and we try to bring the facts. So why don't you go ahead and take us out, guys?
You want to take us out, Eric? Let me do it.
You go ahead.
All right, man. For all of us at End of the Ring, thanks so much for tuning in. We will be back on Tuesday. We will probably get a little bit more in depth about the Chocolatito Estrada fight coming up this weekend.
Excited.
That's going to be a great fight. For all of us to Enter the Ring, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. 5 o'clock on the West Coast, 8 o'clock Eastern for Mighty Mike,
King Arthur,
and AJ Ray or Eric Red. Sorry,
no more bourbon for Eric.
All right, I just had a couple beers. I mean,
we'll see you guys.
God bless, guys. God bless. God bless.
We'll see you on Tuesday.
Love
Good
you,
luck.